Hello, everybody. SANDDAO 68. This is a return of a guest we had back in SANDDAO 8. SANDDAO 8. That was feels like a lifetime ago, Seb, since we last did this back in July of 2024. Now here we are 60 episodes later, and I've learned a lot. I've interviewed a lot of people and had a lot of community discussions about the DAO. And today we're talking about it's just a discussion. It's kind of a learning session to learn about the things that have been happening recently and to put them into the proper context so that we can all be armed with educated with the right information going forward and just staying up to date as part of community members. So my normal disclaimer is that I, Lanzer, do not represent the Sandbox Game or the Sandbox Foundation. Seb, what would you say for you? Do you represent either?
I'm an ambassador for both, so I'm a voice
There
that's
we go.
been like sharing all the updates around like what's happening within Sandbox and the broader Sandbox ecosystem. And on the downside, I've been a member of the advisory council, helping behind the scenes to review the various Sandbox improvement proposal, give feedback, and helping this to be pushed for the voting toward the community.
Yeah. So, in either case, neither of us are anyone's financial or legal advisors, and nothing we say is to be taken as financial and legal advice.
Correct.
DAO and TSM. And when we say the word SIP, we mean Sandbox Improvement Proposal. If we say the word DAO, we mean Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And when we use the word SandFam, we're talking about the Sandbox community, those who participate in the people, product, and purpose. This slide I didn't have last time we talked in 2024. This one I put together. I've been saying it for quite a while though. So the people is everywhere from the gamer to the Sandbox team. The product is everything from the game client to the DAO. The purpose includes the white paper and all the things that you and Arthur and now Robbie and Yatsu have expanded upon in terms of what it is that the Sandbox is about, what we're doing. All those things come together in the ecosystem, and today we're talking about the DAO. If you'd like to learn more about the DAO, please go to the DAO Education Hub in the Sandbox Game. It's located at 2-154. It was a RFP where we created a gamified learn and how to for the DAO. It's down in the left-hand corner of the map, right next to Jurassic Park. You'll see the Sandbox DAO logo, and in there is this DAO Education Hub. Please take a look. You can learn everything about how SIPs work, how the DAO is structured, and all the particulars of how we DAO as a community. And my guest is a returning guest, Seb Borget, who's the co-founder of the Sandbox and now global brand ambassador. Seb, welcome back. Thank you very much for coming.
Of course, I'm glad to be back and like, wow, I'm so impressed how prolific you've been. Like, you produced over 60 episodes since I was there in 2024. That's the energy, that's the spirit of the community.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's been a learning lesson. It's been a learning journey. That's mostly what we've been trying to figure out is how do we think about the DAO? How do we interact with it? And all of the particulars surrounding what it means to be good SandFam community members. And this is part of that is learning from you and as in a position of leadership in the DAO and now global brand ambassador. Can you what does that what is a day in the life of a global ambassador for the Sandbox?
So it's still like keeping like a regular communication with the teams who are in charge of the sandbox of like the marketing, the product, and being up to date on like what we're going to launch and what date and what is special. Like how can I better explain what's going to happen? How can I share the different updates regarding the roadmap, regarding what we'll be doing in the new 3.0 strategy, and how I can keep emphasizing and sharing and promoting everything that's being done by the community itself, as well as like the Sandbox team, and everything happening within the Sandbox ecosystem, which now consists not only of like the Sandbox, Alpha Season, Game Maker, Game Client, Vox Edit, but also Corners, new product that we actually launched earlier this year in January, or Sunchain, our own layer 2 blockchain that we introduced in October last year, which is in testnet now. So there's public speaking, there's like answering interviews, there's participating into Twitter Spaces, IMA Live, and a lot of of meeting people across various events. When I'm in Paris or I travel around the world and keep sharing with them what's happening, what we are going to launch in terms of AI, in terms of mobile, in terms of content and brand partnership, for example. I think there's a lot of demystifying around the fact that we as co-founder, Archer and myself, are not involved anymore. That's not the case at all. Like we actually yesterday I was meeting with the team in France. Archer was in Paris. We've been discussing some aspect of the strategy of this year. I met with the team who is in charge of corners and certain product. We're preparing in the next couple of weeks or months a big announcement for something that the team has been long awaiting. We've been also very active on like the social media channels like X and replying
Yeah,
back to
very
many
much so.
comments.
Yeah.
Some of them regarding Sand token, regarding what's happening in the market, some suggestions from the community around why not burning sand and so on, and taking those into account, bringing them back to those teams, and waiting, like proposing ideas and solutions, and awaiting them to be discussed as well, and see like how they can be fitted and in which timeline.
Yeah, when you described what you've been doing as the global brand ambassador, all I can think of, that's exactly what you've been doing this whole time. That's like the perfect fit for you. It seemed like you were in a
Yeah,
different
that's
country every
wow.
single week.
Yeah, well, I guess like a little bit less this year, but I counted days, and it's true. I've been more than 6 months a year on the road.
Yeah.
Um, and if I have a chance to speak publicly, if I have a chance to meet people who contribute at any level to the Sandbox ecosystem, their own land, their own avatar, their own sun, they are creators, they use Vox Edit, they are interacting with the DAO or active on the DAO, they have an education related program for creators and so on. Like I want to hear their feedback. I want to be aware of what they're doing, and I want to see how I can help them maybe reach the right person at Sandbox and so on. So, as you said, I'm also have the chance to be on the ground, to be closer to the user wherever they are, and bring back their energy, their ideas to the main team as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll definitely get into corners and sand chain a little bit later because that was one of the open topics that I had. For before global ambassador, you just were part of the special council, which was elected in the first few sips back in May of 2024, and now the term expired in December of just a couple months ago, December 2025. When we first talked back in SANDDAO 8, you gave me an understanding of what the special council did, and also some of the things that you discussed and the the ratings or the recommendations. Since then, I've learned a lot about what happens in a foundation company when I interviewed like a director, a couple of lawyers. We did the mini series in the foundation company. Since all that time's passed, almost a year and a half now, what has been your experience like on the special council?
So, being part of a special council together, for example, with Cyril from the DAO and Yatsu and Shannon as well. And I've had the chance, and Jean-Michel Payon as well. Like we have been active, and from time to time, not every day, but whenever there was a new SIP or set of SIPs, usually they came by three. We review them, we give some feedback in terms of like um, their impact, their feasibility. how like the budget seem realistic or not based on our various experiences as entrepreneurs, builders, or business people. And uh, actually reviewing them took a bit of time because you don't just read the top TLGR summary. You go through all the details, you try to
Yeah.
understand who's the team. So it's like doing a diligence while you've not seen it. So I really treated it as um, almost like a pitch at a startup competition and like reviewing if that business model or proposal made sense and how it actually generated value for the community first, but also for the sandbox, uh, the DAO and the foundation as well. Because as you know, the Sandbox Foundation and the DAO was not supposed to be non-profit entity, but still was also supposed to generate its own revenue to reinvest it back into the ecosystem. So we raised some question, we discussed it, we gave feedback, sometimes real time, sometimes asynchronously, based on like the time zones and availability of each one of us. And that get pushed back for some iteration from whoever submitted that SIP for an improvement. And overall, that I think that helped the SIP to usually raise a higher quality standard before they get seen by the community and people for the vote, for the public vote. It also helped us to get a sense of like what people would like to have um, to actually improve the sandbox ecosystem, either in terms of products, in terms of ecosystem, of content, of ability to decide and manage some budget as well. And we've encouraged trying a lot of things. So we've been generally very supportive of the ideas of like the different delegates, of people having more ability to vote for small budget without going
Mm.
through the whole process. We also had many learnings and we realized that sometimes we needed to accelerate the things and make action faster for people not to get as well too um, not discouraged, but I would say like when things get too lengthy, your energy tends to drop at some point. So we
Yeah.
want people to feel the passion and the excitement after they spend some time in submitting for them. And the other thing that you don't see is like usually we also got a lot of inbound message from different channels like social Twitter and social media or email from people who had ideas and that we were driving through the process of the DAO to say, look, I love that idea. I'd love to see it come to life. You should turn it into a SIP, Sandbox Improvement Proposal. And here's how you do. You go for on the Sandbox DAO, you create your profile, you go into the forum, you start explaining it. And you go through that process. And of course, we want to vote on it. But I also need to be realistic that because the decision is not ultimately just on us, there's a change that maybe will not you have to convince the community to support you. And here's some um, recommendation to make it successful really on getting those votes, those positive votes. Uh, the other thing that we were doing is we were sharing some of the updates regarding some tools or activities that happen. I remember I've been keeping promoting the Magic Palette and
Mm.
by the SandRush team, which has
Yeah.
been Magic Block and Magic Palette, which has been one of the open, not open source, but tools that have been developed by the community to offer new creation experience from the browser and now with AI. Sometimes we met those teams in person as well, so there was like really physical contact, presentation, iteration with them to see where they're going, what they wanted to do. And the part that we were not in charge of, but the team of the DAO did, and sometimes it gets forgotten, but it's a lot of work. Is also the following of all those SIP. Once they get voted positively, how the different milestones are being reached, so that they can trigger the proper payment and all the conditions um, that they should be eligible to in case they reach certain KPI or they deliver certain milestones.
That's quite a bit. It sounds like you were an ambassador for the DAO as special counsel. You met with everyone from SIP authors to the DAO admin team to the other special council members. It sounds like in behind the scenes, y'all were just advocating for the DAO and just pushing it forward and and trying to encourage participation.
Yes, that's basically the idea. I think sometimes I don't know if I've been stepping up out of my role officially or whatever, like the job description might have been, but putting in place like the decentralization through the DAO is something that we had envisioned from the beginning of the Sandbox white paper and in our roadmap. We first decentralized the ownership of the creation from the player with NFTs. Then we decentralize the map with land. Then the token, the sand, so the economy of the platform. And finally, when we implemented the DAO and we launched it a year and a half, actually we started to work on it 2 years and a half ago, and we launched it 1 year and a half because it took some time. I was really excited and was I'm still very excited about the potential of like bringing power in the hand of people, the people who contribute to the game, to the platform, to make their decision, to vote with their tokens on what they want to see first and how what should benefit to them.
Yeah.
And so that's something I've been talking a lot publicly. I've been encouraging people to say, look, there's one company where we have to follow certain process, things are slow, and the decision is not only depending on me. And I don't know if it will happen because we cannot fund and launch so many projects. We have to be focused and so partnership. Even everybody wants to partner in a way, but partnership with Sandbox sometimes was not as efficient as like working with the DAO,
Hmm.
getting the support of the community that by voting for you and using your tool or benefiting from what you're proposing, actually would get you to the same goal. I've been very supportive of the idea, like, take plan B, take the DAO, go through it. And all the time, the proof is like, I think we had 38 proposals that have been voted upon. We had about 60 proposals in total that went through review and so on. And those have been really amazing, like in terms of like the scope, the range, the fact that we were able to run education programs through delegates to Africa and Nigeria, that we had certain
Yeah.
program that allows new tools to be developed by external teams as well, or certain features to be prioritized in the roadmap at the demand of the community. This for me have been great validation and rewards for putting the DAO in place.
Yeah. I think it was obvious when you went to these conferences how many people you spoke with and how much you spoke about the sandbox. I didn't realize that that was also an opportunity where you were talking with potential partners and educating them about the DAO and the SIP process and how they can partner directly with the DAO through going to the SIP process. I guess I suspected that was happening, but I hadn't been able to attend any of the conferences yet to see that. But I'm not at all surprised to see that you've been doing that because you everyone knows you are the ambassador, you are the face of the DAO, let's call it, whenever you go to these conferences all the time. Seems like you're at a new conference every single week.
Yeah, I try. Like the team of the DAO, Cyril, they were present at some events, for example, in Singapore last year and twice in Lisbon, if I remember correctly, and they were here to meet with the community. But it's true that no other team member had this chance to go as often globally in all those different cities. So that's my role as like co-founder of Sandbox to push that vision that we have around decentralization and encourage people to go and test and experiment with it. I never said that everything will be successful and guaranteed 100% success, obviously. But like the fact that I'm able to convince and share and recommend to like, like there's many ways to achieve your goal and you should try like this or like that. For
Yeah.
me, it's already a great feeling. And so I was very frustrated when I knew that we didn't have the bandwidth within the main sandbox to handle all those things, while at the same time I meet with so many people on the ground that want to do certain things. So the DAO has been really the perfect way to approach like how the community can self-support itself And the best proof is today, like I didn't hire you. You just came out, joined that ecosystem to be active and to produce 68 interviews already. You've done that, all of that in full autonomy. You decided how, and you built that documentation for the DAO as well. That's thank you for that, and thank you for everyone who contributed over the life of Sandbox for making it the success it has been and making it this amazing ecosystem that it still is today. Like I think I don't say it enough, but that's very important, and I want to recognize all the contributors from wherever they are to the DAO, to the Sandbox, to the ecosystem, and the creators as well.
Yeah, in the Twitch chat right now, there's a lot of familiar faces like Play Game for Fun, Wicked, OG Shakespeare. He just rated, by the way, with 10 people. So thank you very much, Shakespeare. I'm really happy you're here. Thank you for that. So for the special counsel and advisory board, one of the things that I noticed and a lot of people noticed is that it maintained a low profile in terms of posting on the DAO forums or hosting X spaces or really engaging with the DAO community itself. And I wanted to understand what was the strategy behind that approach.
Who was maintaining a low profile?
The special counsel and advisory board. That I didn't really hear a lot from them. I heard the most from you. Shannon did
Yeah.
an interview maybe 6 months ago, and then I tried to interview every single one of the special counsel and advisory board, and I was able to speak with Mia Bao and also Loretta, and so I was able to speak with them. But by and large, I'd say the community felt that the special counsel and advisory board maintained a low profile when it came to this DAO
Mm.
community. And I'd like to know what was the strategy behind that.
So I don't think there was a specific strategy, to be honest. Like every
Okay.
when we formed those council originally, we picked members that were active by then in the community in one way or another, and they represented. We tried to pick people who also represented the different faces of that ecosystem, whether they were builder studio or they were present into certain geographic zone. And their participation, like we propose them, like, are you interested in the DAO and so on? These are like some of the commitments that we would ideally require from you, but there's no punishment for not participating, and we are not forcing people, we're not paying people either to do so. They were all doing it on their free time and goodwill and contribution. And so it might have happened that certain of those people, for various reasons, their own project had to face the reality of like the market conditions. Maybe they were less interested in metaverse and so on. Some of them became more distant, apparently. It's true that I haven't met them either in person for quite some time at various conference or events. So I would say like life condition made them less involved and then less vocal about what they've been doing or Sandbox. So
Okay.
we were aware about that. I think there's been some discussion around like also like allowing or trying to replace the council and rotate them with members who were more active in the community and the forums. I think that's been discussed quite a lot, and I think there was some idea to put that in place to the vote. Um, but at least we had to start somewhere when we begin the DAO, and I felt like it had to be somehow a representation again of like who's a builder, who's a landowner, who is in Asia, who is in America, who is in Europe, who is a woman, who is a man, etc. To try to make almost like a government with people who could sufficiently representative of the different aspects of the ecosystem. And it's
Okay.
a learning, like we were saying, as part of the SIP 39, like after a year and a half operating the DAO and 38 SIPs, um, we wanted to pause and take the time to learn, like, okay, what went right, what went wrong, or what we could have done maybe differently, um, on like ensuring like the full engagement and participation of people.
the and the with the benefit of all the hindsight, you're talking about rotating the members. I very nearly put up a SIP to try and nominate myself to the special council or something to try and rotate, but I never got to it because I didn't think it was allowed. Pretty much, and it was at the time it was a little difficult to we had to choose which sips we wanted to put in, and that's when I did the $0 like feature sips where the searching your inventory and then the resizing and all that sort of stuff. So I did that instead. But with the benefit of all that hindsight, were there any decisions that you would have done different on the special counsel?
I think like keep in mind the special console was not operating on the day to day as the actual Sandbox DAO team. So
Okay.
we were only taking the input that in terms of like reviewing what's happening in the DAO and the suggestion from the member, most of even the most available people like myself or Yatsu as well, we were browsing briefly the forums, but we were essentially just taking the SIP that were asked to be reviewed by us, because we have all other agendas and things to do. And so it's more like the Sandbox DAO team that should have been answering and interacting with you. I think the constitution was made in a way not to be immutable forever, but it could be changed and adjusted based on
Hmm.
that. Like it started with a proposal that it could be Constitution 1, Constitution 2, Constitution 3, or like how you would evolve and evolve the member. What we wanted to avoid is to have to every 2 months to change. That's for sure. Don't have like instability.
Okay.
Um, but I guess like personally, and I can only speak for myself in this case, not for the rest. Like I always love working with people who are passionate and engaged with the community and the product. So yeah, I love to have more council member or special advisory to the DAO that we can like discuss rapidly on different topic, get quick feedback, and allow them.
Okay.
And the reality is also, I'm thinking, like those are special titles, advisory, special council, advisory members. They are just titles. They are just labels in a way. They don't come with superpower, like we don't have much more superpower than anyone. We don't get more voting power than anyone, actually. Though at the end of the day, like quite naturally, like the people who are more outspeaking within the community, who are like you running podcasts, interviews, giving voice to others, they are quite, they would be naturally recognized by the other community members as the most active and engaged. So I'm sure you get a lot of interaction yourself, a lot of feedback on your own message as well.
All the
And
time.
I
All
love
the
that.
time.
Exactly. Yes. See, so it doesn't need to be called special something. When you're in a forum, when you're in a community, you know who are the active people there and who to talk to in general. Like people recognize that by the participation of the different members.
Yeah. That I appreciate that answer. That I think it's a little bit more clearer for a lot of us. We were trying to figure out what could we do to help grow the DAO. We and some of us felt like the authority, the superpowers rested with the special counsel and the advisory board, whereas most of us were not that, so we were on the receiving end of what the DAO admin team was doing for the SIP review and the threshold or the standard it took to have a SIP from a SIP idea. So we largely felt kind of powerless, I think, to make any change or improvements. And that's where I was asking about the special counsel and advisory board because it felt like they were the advocates to make those changes. And so, yeah, I just wanted to understand a little bit better about what the approach was for the low profile because I think it's good to know that there was no specific strategy and that they didn't come with superpowers like maybe some like I imagined they would.
I know, like definitely not. Like, I just know like they were not even interacting in the chat within the other council members. So like
Oh,
mostly the one I mentioned have been the most active, and that's it. So no, how you say, there was no hidden plot or hidden plan or secret strategy behind. You know, honestly,
got it.
it's just like life, through life, some people get less engaged into some topics, and that's it.
Got it. Yeah, I think I can understand that. Where especially where you want to start out with a diverse governance body so that it would set the example, set the stage for what would come later to where we would have community nominated uh, members and then they would look at the first special counsel and advisory board and say, "Oh, there's where my model is and now we can improve upon there." I I get it. I get it. That's okay, so now we can get into the tougher part, let's call it, of the interviews, which was the Tuesday AMA. It experienced a recording bug, so I covered in my last episode a few days ago where I covered that and I reacted to it. So could you restate what was the what prompted SIP 39 to pause the DAO?
Right. So on the Tuesday IMA, we also had like Robbie Young, the CEO of Animoca brand, and the Sandbox, and we had Cyril as well present, and myself. We were essentially highlighting like the SCP-39 came out from the Sandbox, first of all, with this idea to pause the operation of the DAO and its budget in order to first um, look out for like what has been the results and the impact of the Sandbox DAO after about a year and a half of operation. Been 38 proposals, 38 projects ongoing. So it's a lot of things that actually that team had to review to realign with the new vision of the Sandbox 3.0 that's been published, I think, by Robbie around October. So after we announced the Sunshine. So the Sandbox 3.0 is focusing a lot more around the launch of new products toward like the Sandbox ecosystem. More importantly, things that connect with AI. So there's been some experiment with vibe coding and Rosebud, for example, but there will be bigger things that are on the roadmap. The launch of corners and Sandbox and Sand token expanding on Base as a blockchain, so other ecosystem than Polygon or Ethereum. The launch of the Sunshine, that's also like an expansion of Sandbox beyond gaming and virtual worlds toward like the creator economy and opening up to more to different creation tools than just game maker. So you could now interact with Unity, with I don't know, JavaScript, Unreal, etc. And the mobile version of Sandbox. That's I know a lot of people are expecting, it, and we hope like they will be pleased to hear what we'll have to announce. So,
Yeah, okay.
uh, that's pretty much it. I guess that's what we were saying on that date.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. And again, mostly that was because if you try and access the recording right now, it won't let you. So, and I didn't think to record it myself. I was just listening and participating in the chat. So, um, thank you. So, something I want to go back to was the special counsel and advisory board. Their term expired December 31st, a couple months ago. Can you provide some insight into what led to postponing that election?
I think like the SIP 39 didn't came out. So well, the term expired on 31st of December, but the SIP 39 didn't came out just in January. It was probably already in the making several weeks or months ahead on the Sandbox side. And so the Sandbox side was discussing with the Sandbox DAO, the Sandbox Foundation, around like what's the best approach. And we were not, or I was not more personally like what was the best term of the best course of action here. But I guess this is my interpretation here.
Okay.
It wouldn't make sense to organize a public vote and put in place new people to be in function, and right after months later to put in place a SIP for vote, where the sandbox would essentially ask to the community to vote it down. It would be both a massive waste of energy and time for people to put up an application and create even more deception right after to hear like within a few months or week if PIP 39 is voted yes, obviously that their role will not be in effect at all a few days later. So I don't like to compare it. Well, but I can compare it a little bit to like how France has been operating and delaying voting its budget and changing its ministries all the time. But that is such a mess that everyone is mocking France around the world because we are not able to get to agree on the budget for our government. Or in the US, when like they were not able to agree and it froze like the public ministers, right?
Okay,
We
I
don't want
gotcha.
that.
Okay.
Like for a matter of weeks or months in January, December, end of December to January, people could have. That was not a long enough
The
time
government
for
shut
people
down.
to wonder.
Okay.
Exactly. Mm.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, okay. I get that. Thank you. And what about the DAO pause made? I realize you said you weren't directly involved with the decision making. So, what was your interpretation of the DAO pause focusing on discontinuing the special counsel and advisory board as being the preferred path for the DAO pause?
I think part of like the proposal within the SIP 39 DAO project is also like reducing its operating budget down to the very minimum. So having just like what is legally required for the foundation to exist, as it is based in Cayman Island, and ensuring that previously approved budget that's been deployed will continue as they were engaged. So people who were working on delivering their milestone will still be able to receive the due payments that were agreed upon in the past. But they felt like it didn't seem there would be no new SIP to be reviewed, to be approved. There would be no necessarily, at least as it is posed, and if it comes or when it comes into a new form, maybe we will not be needed. So we for a new form. So there's no reason to maintain, uh, like we were saying, government shutdown. So this governance in a way in place for longer than need be. So that's also basically closing the involvement of like this advisory council and special advisory members and special councils, right?
So it might
At the
be in
same
the
time.
new form that the special counsel and advisory board might not be needed.
I actually don't. I think like right now people have to vote in the SIP 39, and there will be probably from that pause for that period of pause, there will be a matter of weeks or months and seeing like what could be a better form of governance for the sandbox um, DAO outside of the sandbox. Probably looking around. I mean, not looking around, looking back. Do we need did the council and the advisory board like played such an important role? Should that role be more distributed toward like the community itself and be something that's not attached to special one person for a term, but maybe distributed differently? Those are the kind of takeaways as well. I think that people want to do after the DAO is posed to imagine a better governance, kind of like governance 3.0 as part of like the Sandbox 3.0 vision that was discussed on this IMA as well.
Okay. One of the one of the observations I had personally is that for this new round of special council members, I myself was going to run. A number of others declared that they wanted to run too, like really well known community members. And it felt like we didn't really fully get a chance to be in DAO leadership. It felt like that the sandbox nominated through its internal deliberations to form an example governant or a government body. But now that we're at the place where the community can do it, now it gets paused. And that makes me really sad. It feels like we didn't really get a chance to be in DAO leadership. I don't know. I wanted to share that because that was part of what I think frustrated the community a lot in May of 2024 when it was launched. And I know you were aware of that. So was Cyril, where the big announcement happened, and I think it was Portugal, right? Not NFT Paris, but it was a really big
NFC summit on this
yeah,
one.
yes,
Yeah.
thank you. And when it was announced, it was a great big announcement, and then the SIPs were voted on, and I know that was part of the release strategy, and the community reception wasn't as great as Cyril expected it would be, and I think one of the things that it felt like was that the community wasn't as involved, and now that the DAO is on pause, it feels like the community member, didn't get a chance to involve in DAO leadership. Um, can you give a little bit of insight into that? And I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? Do you feel that's a fair thing for me to say?
Yeah, I can appreciate that what you're saying and what you're feeling, and I recognize your feelings. Like it is true
Thanks.
that like the people who contributed the most on the forums didn't get a position in leadership or whatever um, title label you can put on the name,
Superpowers.
etc. Superpower, if you want, and it's one of the learning and takeaways. So I guess like doing things differently starts right from like let's work with the most engaged people in the community firsthand, and not just try to put uh, the idealistic representation of our ecosystem. Let's just go with the ecosystem and hope that it will evolve into and a better fitted big picture of what how rich it is, right?
Yeah.
Um, there's one thing I've been saying. So like I love one day Sandbox to have this full exit to community where like it's the whole community that runs this. The code is open source. Sand is there fully distributed, and the tools to engage and vote and create those um, maybe not just one DAO but multiple DAOs and circle of or center of discussion and decision will not be dependent on a single centralized team because that single centralized team cannot appreciate the strengths and the diversity of that ecosystem as much as I was doing, and probably as anyone who's deep down in the trench of Sandbox on the other side of the product was. Yes.
Thank you for saying that. I think like that was the cry out, the frustration of the community where we were really looking for an opportunity. And I know I screamed the loudest. I was certainly uh I was certainly vocal about it. I care. There's so many people who care. All the delegates who are doing this for free. Um, there's a lot of well-known community members who were just involved in the community and the DAO, trying to vote on every single proposal, advocating for SIPs in other DAOs. Myself, I was pretty involved in advocating for the Sandbox and Whale DAO. The Whale members, they own a lot of land, something like 1,000 pieces of land, and just trying to advocate for the Sandbox style and just waiting for my opportunity, let's call it. So thank you for recognizing that. And like you said, it's a learning, one of the learning takeaways, and I'm hopeful that the new form of governance will take that into consideration, that I'm still a Sandbox believer. So are many others.
Thank you. I believe again, Sandbox exists more in the hearts of the people who are part and involved in it than just through a single company. Like it does become a sort of, to me, it materialized through the people and the connection we've made. And at the DAO level, I know that the delegates were able to get a bit of autonomy around managing certain
Yeah, that was
budgets already. It
great.
was the first form. That was really a first form for give a chance for people to do more things and decide more for them. I'm dreaming a day again, like Sandbox evolved so that it lives on its own. It outlives us, the founders, the initial team that created it, and it's wholly run by the community. So um, almost like a child one day becomes an adult and don't need to be fed by his parent and ask money to his parent to go out, etc. But he has studied, he had to stay home, he had to miss the party when there was a fun party, but the
Yeah.
parents were a little bit too much of the guardians, etc. I don't know if
Discipline.
you've been good parents. I have not said they were good parents, but that's discipline. That's learning. It's been only 5 years, so it's still a toddler, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Except if we count in crypto years. Uh, yeah, I want to say definitely appreciate what you and everybody have done at the DAO and the SandFam level. Maybe the sandbox has not said it out enough out loud. Maybe people who were representing sandbox through their job missed the opportunity to connect more closely to the community and appreciate and recognize the work from the community. But to me, it's clear, like we Sandbox will not be where it is today, will not exist, be so big without everybody's contribution. And I recognize that every day. I never, and that's for me one of my best personal, I wouldn't say achievement, but thing that makes it vibrant to continue
Yeah.
Sandbox every day. No matter. Mm.
Thank you, Seb. Thank you. Since we spoke, I think in May or July of 2024, I myself became a father. So, I have a little Lanzer now running around. And I appreciate what you said about how, sometimes there's no manual for this. Sometimes it's just learning the best you can and doing the best you can, and then learning from your mistakes and listening to feedback and trying to do better the next time. And that's what I'm hearing right now from the Sandbox 3.0, the reassessment, the realignment, and the pausing in order to figure out what should you do next time. And I don't know, I feel more encouraged now because of that. Thank you for there you go, being the global brand ambassador again. Indeed.
Mm.
So the next one was Robbie mentioned during the AMA that the sandbox was going to use its voting power. Can you share some insight about that?
Well, that's something that I felt like normally we should never have used because if we want to have like true decentralization, like we shouldn't intervene in the vote. But apparently, the new Sandbox 3.0, have a different approach to this, and so why? To pose, you have to create. You needed like extraordinary forces to create something. I guess to pose, you need as well some extraordinary forces to put a hard stop on something. Not a hard stop like forever, a hard pause on something. So that's what they are going to do probably, and that's probably will mean a yes. But I want to remain positive that Sandbox will continue to exist and will work as a community to find ways to make Sandbox exist forever through maybe other structures and other ways. Or if a new DAO emerge, we'll need to make sure that the people there need to be the one that have been contributing and will continue to contribute.
Okay. Yeah, you've been really consistent about that. And I remember the last time, so the sandbox voted in maybe 3 or 4 proposals of the 34, 39, and the last one you accidentally voted and you made
Yeah,
them
that
wonder.
was a
Right,
mistake.
right, right.
And
You
it's on shame. So I recognize, I say, oops, I voted with the Sandbox whatever instead
right,
of
right.
mine, which I made public, and I explained, and then I
And I
changed, and I
appreciated that. I think that was cool.
yes.
That so you've been really
Okay.
consistent about that, and and I've always appreciated that. And yes, Robbie is the CEO now, so he's decided to vote with the Sandbox voting power, which is something close to like 27 million, if I recall last. It's a lot. I'm not sure the community is going to be able to outvote that just by virtue of we'd have to have everybody on board. Um, but yeah, it seems like the vote's rather decided now that if they vote that way, there is a chance that the community can rally the voting power to express its desire to continue, but it's going to be really difficult, um, and massive
Yeah.
difficulty, and that makes me sad. That what's the message there? Is it that he's following the rules and put by the DAO in order to pause it correctly, or is there something else?
So now that 100% of the sand is in circulation, by the way, we
Oh,
were looking at
okay.
coin market cap. There's no more. So those 27 million sand, even though it's still a big number, is not as big as it was in
Yeah, I guess that's true. I
in the
didn't think about that.
2024. Back then, I think we had like 300 million sand voting power.
Yeah.
So it's still hard to rally everybody. Don't know like how many holdings some of the various committee members have, but not impossible to balance 27 million cent either. If the committee doesn't have, like, it would make no sense economically to have to buy the equivalent of 27 million cent, obviously, right? But again, in a way, it's still democratic because it's not a huge, impossible amount to reach within the 3 billion sun that are in circulation, right? But it will be a massive effort to find and speak to sufficient amount of sun holder to have a big amount. So I
Okay.
guess I wouldn't be this, but still, it's not because you know that the battle is lost in advance that you should do nothing. Like if it's voted yes by 27 million, but you get to rally 10 million, 15 million, or saying no, it's still such, for me, that would be a meaningful number as well to put in front, right? And if you get everybody else to rally around that represent whatever amount, 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, it's still a story that will be written on blockchain. And maybe one day that moment will be memorized as how like the first decentralized governance of Sandbox didn't succeed, but led to a better second one in some way. I remember hearing the founder of EVE Online Game from CCP Studio
Hmm.
actually sharing moment where players were in a little bit in a rebellion mode against some decision that been made by the developer, and the team had to reverse that decision and to celebrate and commemorate that they created a statue that actually was put into the game. Little bit like in the physical world, you know. So those moments can exist as well. And if you care and if other people care and everybody votes, for example, no, still the sum of those no is meaningful. So that's what I would take as a takeaway. Maybe I'm too
Okay.
optimistic or positive, but that's for me important too. So you heard me say, I didn't say vote no. I say like, if you collectively do something, it's still something that's meaningful.
I think that's very encouraging. I think that's a good answer. Thank you. I didn't realize that 100% of sand is in circulation. So, um, if I recall, I have a slide here about that. Let's take a look. Um, so here's my interesting fact slide. There is 3 billion sand that's max supply, and there are 166,000 lands. So that's 3.74 billion voting power out there. If I count the 750 million voting power for lands
Mhm.
and 3
Correct.
billion voting power for sand.
2.166.
Yeah. So I see what you're saying now, that it's not impossible. And for anyone watching who's not involved in the DAO, you might think 3 billion voting power potential to counter or balance the 27 million voting power of the Sandbox company. Yes, that's true, but also we have struggled to make quorum in the past. And now the delegate system, since the delegate system was introduced, we've met quorum, but it's neck and neck. It's like we make 30 million, a little bit over 30 million every single sip. So we already know that 30 million community participation against 30 million of Sandbox, it's going to be close. We'd have to rally like the entire voting DAO right now to do that. And I guess that's just a challenge then. That's a challenge to the community to rally more votes, more community participation so that it can balance the 27 million if we're able to persuade the community to vote um, against the proposal to continue the DAO. Let's call it. I think okay, I get it. If you collectively do something, it's meaningful and it's not impossible.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, I don't want to compare it with like non-democratic regime of what's happening in Iran or other, but some of the smallest movement became contagious and grew into like the largest over shift of power. And so it would be interesting to witness that happen into a virtual nation as well one day.
That would be interesting. I think the closest example maybe is in Star Wars. You know, the smallest flame it can ignite the can ignite the community and rally it. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to end with in terms of our questioning here for the DAO and the pause is there's a lot of it's natural to feel fear or uncertainty about what's happening. The announcement of a pausing of the DAO. What can you share to alleviate people's concern? Um, and thank you for doing that for me because I feel a lot better now since we first started this conversation. What can you do to share so to alleviate some of the concern that this is the beginning of the end of the Sandbox DAO, maybe even the Sandbox game, because of our struggle for player retention and maybe we're not doing as well as we want to. We're not the roadblocks of Web3 that we wanted to be, but we're trying desperately to grow the community. But what can you do to? What are your thoughts there?
So more recently, I've been quite vocal about like what have been the main challenge for most gaming, blockchain games, and Web3 gaming in general. And I can summarize it. It's been mostly a problem of distribution. Like Web3 games didn't get the long and sustainable distribution outside of like token incentive and play to earn, which we know are not sustainable,
Hmm.
that other platforms have got, such as like the App Store, the Play Store, etc. Launching on mobile brought your game to millions of new devices being sold every year for about 10 years on the smartphone. And same with console, but not uh, like here the blockchain ecosystem, such as like the blockchain themselves or the wallets, they were not actively bringing new players to the different platforms. And so it's been the thing that I realized it's like how hard it's been to acquire new users outside of like the creator strategy and the brand strategy using traditional like user acquisition means and the retention of those users once you're able to acquire, convert them and make sure they stay. That's However, so that led us to think of like what can we do, like what should be the other approach then, and the other approach is part of the Sandbox 3.0 strategy we're proposing, which is essentially let's focus and double down more on the creator side with like bringing almost two-thirds of the content made by creator in the next season, winners of game jam and contest. So you will see that with the season 7 coming this month. We're doing that as well by, I don't know if you saw the new community created avatar collection that went live. We picked, there was a contest a few months earlier, and we picked 10 winners, and the design from those 10 winners became official avatar that are now on sale for everyone to use. They are super cool. And um, with potentially the new creation tools that will come using AI as well, that will drive a new, hopefully even more creators to use and to make different kind of games with it. So that's on the creator side. And then obviously, if we think like mobile as is a great way to acquire audience, very simply, we'll look at that channel and deliver something that we were not able to deliver before. Not because we didn't try. Very few people know the thing that we didn't have mobile, but actually it's been 2 years we've been building mobile product. We've been playtesting them, and we've not been satisfied with um, like the experience or the quality of those games. So we killed them. We shut down that product. We didn't want to launch product we were not happy with it, essentially. And that's something that's very common in the game industry. I think like less than 60% of the game in development are actually going live to their full first launch. And out of those,
Wow.
less than one third will be still active after 3 years. So very hard industry to make good games. But we didn't give up. We've been working for over 2 years with a new engine to deliver an experience that's much better on mobile and closer to what we wanted to do as our vision of the metaverse. And I think 2026 will be the year for us to announce and start doing more uh, playtest with users from our community and use that product as a way to drive a new audience to the sandbox that hopefully, because it came for the game first, for the creation tools first, will then explore the rest of the content on our map and so on and be that distribution that we needed. That's the
Yeah.
approach, the plan. I'm starting to share a little bit too much. Well, more to come in the official announcements.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very excited. We're still here. We're still building different products that we are building. I'm also excited about Corners. It has good results since it has launched early in January. Even myself, I was surprised. I don't know if you saw that tweet, but actually, I was sent with my own curated post of selfies
Yes,
and
I saw
memories with
that.
the community.
I
So
saw
I
that. What was it,
encourage
like
people to
100
try
sand,
it
I
out.
think you earned?
It's still good,
Yeah.
like I posted some of the best time over the years, and people start to contribute too. So, like we want to stay humble. We want to launch things, see if they work. Once we're happy with like already in a level of quality, and Quarter was one example, Sunshine is another, and what's coming to mobile will be another one. And maybe people will regain the trust or the passion that they might have lost along the way and come back to Sandbox through that.
Yeah, I was just showing everyone the tweet where you earned 113 sand from corners. So yeah, I see. I see what you're talking about. Yeah, what you were I don't think you were sharing anything you weren't supposed to, because what you said so far is very consistent with what I've heard so far. The corners announcement by Robbie and others, and the sand chain. Many of us signed the manifesto, by the way, myself included. I'm looking forward to interacting on the sand chain. I'm still trying to figure out what it is I need to be doing there. So anything that can help point us in the right direction, I think will be very helpful too, so that we can continue to be a part of the community. And hearing about Sandbox Mobile, yes, we've heard that for quite a while. Looking forward to that. And the one new thing that I didn't really know much about was the AI integration. So I'd heard some details how you're trying to incorporate AI tools into was it the sandbox, or was it in Sandchain and Corners?
That's something even not yet announced. So
Oh,
that you'll see
okay.
with
All right.
AI tools, yeah, it's quite cool.
All right. I've seen like a lot of names popping into the chat right now. A lot of names you'd recognize, I think. Pickaxe Master, Play Game for
Oh, yeah,
Fun, Escape Room
I think,
Artist,
well,
Wicked. Where
nice.
else? Go West also. Where else? Shakespeare. A lot of folks that I recognize as well as being longtime SandFam community members, saying hello. Also, just talking about what their opinions are and what they're looking into for the sandbox. Man, it's great to see all y'all in the chat again. It's good
Hello,
times.
hello everyone.
Yeah,
Well, good, good. I guess we were getting close. They're joining, but they might be able to see the replay, right?
yeah.
Everything was recorded properly this time.
Right, they'll be able
Good.
to be able to watch it. If y'all have any community questions, now would be the time to ask because we're nearing. I just finished one of my last questions, and the one thing I want to talk about, not related to anything, is that background you've got. I saw a tweet that you put
Yes.
out just the other day where you went to Marlene Corbin, one of the artists that you went to recently. I've seen for a while now that you're an art aficionado. You are an art enthusiast. So you've got a CryptoPunks in the background. What is that piece of art on your right, my left?
Yes. One of the passion projects I have is like I have this. I operate this physical space in Paris,
The
which
Artverse,
is a
right?
digital art gallery called Artverse.
Yeah.
We hold very often. We're also hosting events there that connect with gaming, AI, tech, movie, film. Actually, on Wednesday we were doing a mini event in remembrance of NFT Paris, the conference that didn't happen this year, unfortunately, after 5 years. And I also collect art, digital art, and so some whether I was at the Sandbox Paris offices or here, I always had like art in the background, different objects, books, toys, figurines, and so on. So
Nice.
here is my CryptoPunk. Here is actually a Korean art, meanwhile, that from the end of the 19th century, tiger, magpies, those animals. They became popular again, I think, with K-pop Demon Hunter last year. And we're hosting today in the space downstairs. Um, we have an art exhibition in partnership with Bonk's community. They do some solar art. We have different artists, and it rotates. So it's always great. And something I've been seeing and saying, sorry, is we need to be inspired by art and culture. We need to be surrounded by art and culture in the metaverse. So that's how we started back in the day, putting digital art and NFTs within those games and experiences, but in physical world as well, to open ourselves to different ways of thinking and perspectives. So even though I'm an engineer in background, I turn out entrepreneur, still a geek and a tech person mostly. I have art around. Um, and Marlene, as we were saying, has been a friend. She was working for a company called La Collection before, which was like an NFT marketplace, working of art, working with museums and collectors and artists. And recently, she joined another art gallery, digital art gallery in Paris. So I was happy for them and the owner, and I came to their very side.
Yeah. And
So,
I
so
see those
I try
tweets
to
all the
be
time.
present. Thank you. I try to be present for everybody in the community. If you had a chance to meet me, have a selfie with me, post on Seb on Corner, and you know that I love to connect and help others. Like it's not just all about Sandbox or what I do. It's more and always like, what can we do to help you in your project and your idea?
Yeah, I think that that's obvious, not just from you being a co-founder of the Sandbox, but also just your appreciation for art and culture. You've always consistently said that culture, you want to be the cultural capital of the metaverse. That was one of the Sandbox's vision, and I've always resonated with that. I can't say that I myself am quite an art aficionado as you are. I think I went to my first art gallery for the Beeples, the the yeah, I went
Cool.
there not long ago. Actually, I have my little thing here. Hold on. I want to show you something.
Aha. See? Sorry.
I went to this not too long ago. It's the it's
Wow.
the
That's cool.
Charleston
Oh, so,
Art
oh
Night.
wow. See,
They
that's
held
the full event that we organize. So you might have crossed a lot of like same circles of people there, I'm
right,
sure.
yeah. Yeah, it was my
Cool.
first experience being in an art gallery, and I was kind of inspired by you and also Arthmort. You're familiar with Arthmort, so
Cool.
I he was the one who really, when I did my interview with him way back, closer to when I interviewed you first, just our I had to ask him like, what does a curator do? What is provenance? Like I didn't know anything, anything at all about the art world. So I asked Arthmort in the interview and he kind of educated me on what provenance was. What did curation mean? What were we curating? Like so I had to learn all of those things and recently when I was in town, I went to the Beeple studio and just kind of looked at all of the art and the NFTs that he created, and it was a surreal experience. So I'm learning, I'm growing. I wouldn't have imagined that I would have ever done that had I not like listened to you talk about culture and art and seen your tweets, but also talking to Arthmort and learning about the art community, and also being a part of Whale DAO, where they host their weekly whale talk. I go there quite often. Just listen, they're huge art aficionados, so they're always talking about art and all the things that are happening in the community. So I just want to say, I guess, thank you for continuing to fight, to continuing to advocate for the community, and for all the things that you believe will move us forward. Thanks. Merci beaucoup.
Well, well, just one last note about that. You know, Aldemar was right downstairs 1 hour ago, so I was catching up with him, and you know, he's been also in charge of like managing the Sandbox DAO NFT collections, like curating it, selling some,
Yeah.
acquiring new one. They did two rounds, and there was a SIP that actually generated revenue for the DAO. So we were discussing about like, "Hey, great job, what you've done, you've cleaned it up, and you've been able to even make some revenue. And what next? You know, and we have some ideas on what next in art in general, and how hopefully we'll see him even more around.
Yeah, I'm showing it right now, the flip book that they just prepared, Josephine and his team. And I covered this in the last episode, but they sold 600 assets to realign the collection, and they made, see, the flip book number was, they made $400,000 of revenue for the DAO. And to me, it's one of the things that I highlighted as this is success. We hired Arthur Morton's team to curate the NFT collection that I think you and Jean-Michel Paun, like there was a gift, an endowment to the DAO from the Sandbox and yours collections. So first of all, thank you for that. And second, I was I've been learning from this and just kind of reading the reports because I love the DAO, but this is part of a SIP, so I've been reading what's been happening here, and I've been learning about art in the process.
Amazing. One person we introduced to new perspective and new thing. I'm happy about that. Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Even if it's only one person or one voice for it, that means that it was meaningful.
Yeah. Thank you. And I know I wasn't the only one because I would share some things with other people and be like, hey, did you know that the Arthmort has been curating and he's earned the Dow $400,000? And just like that's a conversation just between like business people and entrepreneurs, but it intersects with art in a way that to me was inspiring to where I wanted to visit an art gallery. So there it is. I just wanted to share that connection that I'm learning myself from being a business person, an entrepreneur, a creator, to now a little bit of an art enthusiast, little by little.
Good. Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
So that's what I had for you and the topics I wanted to go over. I really appreciated your time. Thank you once again for making yourself available to me, a lowly community member. We do have I had about 12 to 13 people watching. So that right there tells me already there's still a lot of interest in this. Um, just having above 5 or 10 viewers puts you at the top 10% of Twitch streamers already. And just that's Sandbox, the Sandbox community, still in chat talking about all the things that they're seeing. But thank you for making yourself available, and thank you for continually fighting for the DAO, fighting for the Sandbox, and being that global ambassador that you've always been. You've always been just a force for good. So thank you. Merci beaucoup. It's my little French that I know.
Thank you. Merci, everyone. And we'll speak soon again. Like, look at the next 100 something episode.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah, I'm have to myself think about where would I take a podcast about the DAO if the DAO is paused. So I have to make a decision there myself. But I've been thinking pretty hard about it, and I didn't want this moment to go by without talking with you about. Yeah, thank you very much for your time, and for everyone who's watching. I'm gonna have to find someone new to raid now because Shakespeare raided me when I was gonna raid him, and so now we need to find someone new. But that's the end of it, Seb. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you. Take care. Bye. See you in the metaverse or some events soon. Bye.
Yep. See y'all in the metaverse.